All right, welcome to a new tool time, and today we're going to discuss SSL certificates and parsing domains out of them for recon. So why would you want to do this? So basically, if you are a bug bounty hunter or a red teamer and or you're doing any kind of assessments against an organization, you want to find as many hosts as you can. And part of the recon methodology that a lot of people use, a lot of successful people have used, is this trick that I'm going to talk about today. So the trick is basically looking at your target's IP range, right? And you can get your target's IP range a multitude of ways. You can be given it by the customer, or you can be given it from their ASN, their autonomous system numbers, which gives you their IP ranges. And this is really useful because then we can go to their IP ranges and we can request every single address inside of their IP range and look for web servers. And then any web server that's using SSL will have an associated certificate. And sometimes inside of the associate certificates, not only will you find that the certificate is applied to the one website that you're trying to visit, whether you get there via IP or a domain name or something like that. There's also basically some other stuff that a certificate that can contain if they're trying to use a certificate for more than one site, more than one domain. So there's different places inside of the certificate that you can get information. You can get the common name, you can get a SAN, a subject alternative name, and basically pull out more hosts that you might be able to access from any given one site certificate. And so let me show you what that looks like real quick. So here is an example of a SAN, a subject alternative name. And here you can see that they're looking at the certificate of DigiCert, right? And this certificate is valid also for if you were to just put digicert.com or www.digicert or content.digicert or origin, their origin server, or login or API or whatever. And so here we've already gathered a couple of new, just by going to digicert.com, we've gathered a couple of new possible sites that we can look at. Login.digicert API, we know that they're using an origin server, and we can see it directly linked here, and content, right? So this is the idea that we're trying to do. We're trying to gather all of these. So there's more than just these subject alternative names and common names that we're looking for in these certificates as well, but we'll get to a little bit of that later. So I tweeted out a couple days ago that, this is something that you can do. What I was using was a couple of tools, piping them together in Bash. And my original thesis was, hey, I want to echo a CIDR range that I get, and I want to pipe it to HTTPX. Now, HTTPX is a tool by Project Discovery. And Project Discovery HTTPX will basically send out a whole bunch of web probes for different web sites really quickly and tell you if a web host exists there. So I send the CIDR range to HTTPX with 100 threads, and then I send it to Nuclei, which is a scanner. And if you're familiar with bug bounty hunting and red teaming, it is a CVE-based type scanner. It basically runs on these templates, and you can search for a lot of general security vulnerabilities based on CVE content, or based on CVEs that exist. And one of the plugins that or the templates that Nuclei allows you to run is called SSL DNS names, which parses out these certificates basically. And so here I am saying anything that shows up as a web server from HTTPX, pipe it into Nuclei with this one template running, and this will parse all of those SSL certificates. Now, then I want the output to basically just give me a list, and so there's a lot of ugly bash here, so cutting and some sed stuff and removing some trailing commas and stuff like that, and eventually sorting and uniquing the output. And so this is something I tweeted out, and turns out that the idea is absolutely valid. Everyone agrees that this is a great recon supplement to your already running stuff, but there's some other tools that do this without kind of my usage of bash here and piping into sed and cut and everything like that, which could have been done prettier already. And there was actually an error in here. I had a unterminated sed in here. So what came out of this research, and this is the really cool thing about the bug bounty community, is people will always be kind of open with you and be like, hey, there's this other thing, have you checked this out? You know, and that's really what I'm about. That's kind of what tool time is about too. So today we're going to talk about the methods to do this. I'm going to show them to you and kind of the efficacy of each tool and kind of what each one does compared to the others, and you can make an informed decision on what you would like to use in your recon when parsing SSL certificates. Okay, so the first method we're going to go over here is the HTTPX method. And this superseded my original testing, which was HTTPX in the nuclei to do the certificate parser there. HTTPX actually has a built-in function. Project Discovery actually tweeted me on this saying, hey, Jason, you can do it with -TLS grab. So we're going to grab this index here, and I'll explain it as we go. So we're echoing in our CIDR range here, which is a CIDR range from Ford. I like to pick a random VDP target to test recon on. There's nothing wrong with doing recon. So this is an IP range from them. We got it off of bgp.he.net when looking at their ASNs. We're piping that into HTTPX, giving it the silent mode, saying give me output of JSON, and use this flag that they told us about, -TLS-grab. And then we're also going to add, we're going to increase the threads here. We're going to go -T100. And then we're using JQ, which is a JSON parser tool. A lot of these tool sets use JQ, and so we're grabbing the TLS DNS names field, and then we're gonna sort it in Unica. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit enter here, and this is gonna take a little while to run, and I'll come back to you when we're done with this. All right, now you can see the output of a sorted and unique run of HTTPX with the TLS grab flag here. You can see that we found a whole bunch of stuff parsed out of the certificates, which was VPN AP1. There's a whole bunch of complicated subdomain names here, and VPN AP4 here. So we should expect the same type of output from some of these other tools. And so that's method number one to do certificate parsing. It did take a little bit, even at 100 threads for HTTPX to gather all the information. So we're gonna give basically a try to some of the other tools in this type of world. Okay, so the next tool we're gonna look at here is Zero, which was passed to me by a follower on Twitter. They mentioned that it was relatively fast in comparison to some of the other tools mentioned, and it has some extensibility in the fact that not only does it look for web servers, but it also looks for any protocol that's running over TLS and tries to parse data from those certificates. And so you can see the example here that they're giving as SMTPS, which you would be able to get something back from as well. So it supports ranges as well, straight into the tool. It's pretty easy to use. It runs on both IPv4 and IPv6, which is good support. So we're gonna hop over here to the box, and we're gonna run this Zero on our range and then sort and unique and see how it comes back compared to some of our other stuff. And I will come back to you when the tool is finished. Okay, so the tool is finished running here, and you can see that it's verbatim the exact output that HTTPX gave us. It was a little bit faster than the run of HTTPX, so I'm not sure if it's the additional parsing that we had to do with JQ. We did give HTTPX 100 threads, which should be enough to compete with the default run of Zero, but I'm not really sure how many threads Zero runs by default. So just in anecdotal experience, Zero was a tiny bit faster, gave the same output, also has some extensibility to run on protocols that are not verbatim web servers. I'm not sure if the other tools do that, so you'll be able to pick your poison. All right, now we're going to move on to our next tool. Okay, our last tool in this roundup of SSL parsers is HackIP2Host, written by HackLuke. And this one is pretty new, came out 6 days ago, and was forwarded to me by a follower, and HackLuke also commented on the chain. And so basically HackIP2Host can do DNS PTR lookups as well as common names and SANs. And so you can basically pipe into it via standard in, but it doesn't take ranges by default like some of our other things. So here in the example usage, you can see prips, which is a tool, and I know Project Discovery also came out with one really recently that'll basically take CIDR range and expand it into each individual host, so that'll pipe it into hack IP to host. And you can see that he's using on PayPal here. We'll try it out in a second on ours and give it a go. All right, so we've basically checked out the help menu for hack IP to host. To kind of give it a fair comparison, because I can set that setting, I'm going to set it to 100 threads, and I'm going to prips our CIDR range into hack IP to host and see how it goes. Okay, so an interesting thing here about hack IP to host is basically that that there's not a lot of output options. Meaning before, we could use the default output of the tool was fine and gave us the domains we were looking for. But hack IP to host gives us this segregated, basically by spaces, description of the output, right? So you have what it was, whether it was a DNS pointer, an SSL common name, or an SSL SAN. And then also with the DNS pointers, you get a trailing period at the end of those, which are not really useful for our purposes. And so what I had to do here was actually redirect the output of hack IP to host to a text file in order to do some bash parsing on the output to get just a list of hosts we might want to look at. So I'm going to pause here and then bring up kind of the dirty bash that I had to run, bash and set, and then we'll look at kind of the output. Okay, so you could do this directly from the tool, but I took hack IP to host and basically sent all the output to a file called hack IP test. Here I'm just catting that file into cut by the delimiter of space, giving us the third field, and then removing on the DNS entries the trailing period, and then sorting and uniquing it. And so this can actually run live because it's just a text file, and here you can see the output, which is exactly the same as some of our other tools, except for we get these DNS servers here, which is a little bit of information that we didn't get from the other tools. So because it works on DNS, it's valuable, has like another source that we didn't see before. So, but in all extents and purposes, mostly the same output for all of the tools. I can say just from using them that the fastest was Cero out of all three. It worked pretty fast, and it has that extensibility of being able to work on any protocol that's over TLS if you specify. All have port designations, so you can add additional ports you want to look for web servers on, like 8443, or any high port that maybe somebody's hosting in a web server on that has an SSL certificate and it's over TLS. So yeah, that's a kind of look at all three tools. It is a valuable recon technique, and a lot of hunters use it to great success. I hope you found a tool that you liked. I think that if I am going to move forward, I might use Cero because of the speed and because of the extensibility and the ease of use. But I could also use the other tools because they give very, very similar output. So cool. That's it for this short episode of Tool Time. We will see you all next time.